David stood at the front door with his mother, Helen, pointing at his wife, Sarah. "Get out," he said coldly. "Pack your things and leave." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "David, please listen to me. Your mother is lying." "My mother would never lie to me," David shouted. "You've been stealing from us." She showed me the bank statements. "You took thousands of dollars." Helen crossed her arms and smiled slightly. "I raised you better than to marry a thief, son." Sarah reached for David's hand, but he pulled away. "I can explain everything if you just give me a chance." "There's nothing to explain," David said. "I want you gone by tonight." Sarah grabbed her purse with shaking hands. Before leaving, she turned back one last time. "One day you'll know the truth. And when you do, I hope you can forgive yourself." The door slammed shut. David felt his mother's hand on his shoulder. "You did the right thing," Helen whispered. But why did his heart feel so heavy? What was Sarah really doing with that money? Keep watching to find out. 3 months earlier, everything was perfect. David and Sarah had been married for 2 years. They laughed together every morning over coffee. They held hands during evening walks. David worked long hours at the factory, but Sarah always had dinner ready when he came home. His mother, Helen, lived 10 minutes away and visited twice a week. "Your wife is so sweet," Helen would say, but her smile never reached her eyes. One Tuesday, Helen arrived with a serious face. "David, we need to talk about Sarah." "What about her?" David asked. "I've noticed some strange things. She's very secretive with her phone. And yesterday, I saw her at the bank during work hours." David laughed. "Mom, you're worrying too much." "A mother knows these things," Helen insisted. "Just watch her carefully. I don't want you to get hurt." That night, David couldn't stop thinking about his mother's words. He watched Sarah as she cooked dinner. She did seem distracted lately, and she'd been going out more often. "Everything okay?" Sarah asked, noticing his stare. "Yeah, everything's fine," David lied, but doubt had planted its first seed. The suspicion grows darker. What will David discover next? Helen started visiting more often. Each time, she brought new concerns. "I saw Sarah at an expensive restaurant with a man," Helen said one day. David's chest tightened. "What? Are you sure?" "I know what I saw. They were laughing together. She was dressed up fancy." "Did you ask her about it?" David questioned. Helen shook her head. "She'll just lie. Cheaters always do." The next week, Helen showed up with papers. "I went through your bank records. Look at these withdrawals. $500, $800, $1,000, all taken by Sarah." David stared at the statements. The numbers were real. Large amounts of money were disappearing from their savings account. "Why would she take this money?" David asked, his voice breaking. "Some people are just users," Helen said softly. "They marry for money and security. Then they take everything." "But Sarah has her own job," David protested weakly. "A job that barely pays anything," Helen reminded him. "You're the one with the good salary. You're the one she's bleeding dry." David felt sick to his stomach. Could his sweet wife really be stealing from him? The truth seems clear, but is it? Don't miss what happens next. David decided to test Sarah. He pretended everything was normal, but he watched her every move. He noticed she left the house 3 times that week during her lunch break. She always came back quickly and never explained where she went. Her phone buzzed constantly with messages. When David tried to look, she pulled it away. "It's just work stuff," she'd say. One evening, David checked their bank account on his computer. Another $700 was gone. His mother's voice echoed in his head. She's stealing from you. Sarah, we need to talk, David said firmly. Sarah looked up from washing dishes. About what? About the money. Where is it going? Sarah's face went pale. I can explain. So it's true. You've been taking money behind my back? David, please, it's not what you think. Then what is it? David demanded. Tell me right now. Sarah's hands trembled. She opened her mouth to speak, but David's phone rang. It was his mother. Not now, Mom, David said. It's important, Helen insisted. I found something else. Come to my house immediately. David grabbed his keys. We'll finish this later. What did Helen find? The shocking discovery awaits. At his mother's house, Helen handed David a folder. Inside were printed photos. Sarah is at the bank. Sarah is at a lawyer's office. Sarah is meeting with the same man from the restaurant. I hired someone to follow her, Helen admitted. I had to protect my son. David's hands shook as he flipped through the photos. Each one felt like a knife in his heart. There's more, Helen said quietly. She showed him bank statements going back 6 months. $20,000 total had been withdrawn. 20,000, David gasped. That's almost all our savings. She's been planning this for a long time, Helen explained. I think she's going to leave you. Take the money and run with that man. David felt tears burning his eyes. How could she do this to me? Some people have no conscience, Helen said, hugging her son. But you have me. I'll always protect you. David drove home in a daze. He found Sarah in the kitchen, making his favorite meal. David, about earlier, Sarah started. Don't, David interrupted. I know everything. I've seen the photos, the bank records, all of it. Sarah's face crumbled. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You're a liar and a thief. The explosion is coming. Can their marriage survive? That's when David told Sarah to leave. With his mother standing beside him, he forced his wife out of their home. Sarah stood on the porch, a small suitcase in her hand. Please, David, call my sister Emma. She'll explain everything. I don't want to hear more lies, David said, slamming the door. Through the window, he watched Sarah get into her old car and drive away. He expected to feel relieved. Instead, he felt empty. You did the right thing, Helen repeated. Now let's clean out her stuff. Get rid of everything. They spent the evening boxing up Sarah's clothes and belongings. Helen hummed happily as she worked. Can we keep this? David asked, holding a photo from their wedding day. They looked so happy. Throw it away, Helen ordered. You need to forget her completely. That night, David couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Sarah's last words. One day you'll know the truth. What truth? The evidence was clear. His mother had shown him everything. But a small voice in his head whispered, Did you ever let Sarah explain? He pushed the thought away. But some truths can't stay buried forever. 2 weeks passed. David threw himself into work trying to forget. But strange things kept happening. A hospital called asking for Sarah. We need to reschedule her appointment, the nurse said. What appointment? David asked. I can't discuss that. Privacy rules. But it's important she calls us back. Then Sarah's boss called the house. Is Sarah okay? She used all her vacation days and sick leave. We're worried about her. Why would she use all her time off? David wondered aloud to his mother. Helen shrugged, probably meeting with that man, planning her escape. But doubt was creeping in. David remembered how tired Sarah had looked lately, the dark circles under her eyes, the way she'd wince sometimes when she moved. One day, David ran into Mrs. Chen from down the street. "How's sweet Sarah doing?" she asked. "Such a kind girl, always helping others." "We're separated," David said shortly. Mrs. Chen looked shocked. "Oh no, I hope it's nothing serious. She's been through so much already." "What do you mean been through so much?" "Oh dear, maybe I shouldn't say." Mrs. Chen looked uncomfortable and quickly walked away. What did she mean? The mystery deepens. What was Sarah hiding? 3 weeks after Sarah left, someone knocked loudly on David's door. He opened it to find an angry woman he recognized as Sarah's sister, Emma. "You're a fool," Emma said, pushing past him into the house. "Excuse me," David said. "Sarah made me promise not to tell you, but I can't watch this anymore." Emma pulled out her phone. "Look at these." She showed David the medical bills, lots of them, all in Sarah's name. "What are these for?" David asked, his heart pounding. 6 months ago, Sarah found out your mother has stage 4 cancer," Emma said. David felt the room spin. "What? No, that's not possible. My mother is fine." "Your mother has been lying to you," Emma continued. "Sarah found the medical records your mom hid. The diagnosis, the treatment plan she refused. Everything." "This can't be true," David whispered. "Sarah spent every penny trying to save your mother's life," Emma said, her voice cracking. "She paid for chemotherapy treatments your mom refused to tell you about. She hired specialists. She researched every option. But why wouldn't my mother tell me? Because she didn't want treatment. She wanted to die quietly. But Sarah wouldn't let her give up." Everything David believed was wrong. But there's more. David drove to his mother's house immediately. He burst through the door without knocking. Helen was sitting in her chair, looking thinner than he remembered. "David, what's wrong?" "Why didn't you tell me you're sick?" David demanded. Helen's face went pale. "How did you find out?" "Why did you lie about Sarah? She was trying to save your life." Helen stood up slowly. "That woman had no right to interfere. I decided not to do treatment. It's my choice." "So you let me throw out my wife? You destroyed my marriage because you were too proud to accept help?" "She was taking your money without permission," Helen argued. "To save your life," David shouted. "She was meeting with doctors, not another man. She was at the hospital, not cheating." Helen's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't want to be a burden. I wanted to die with dignity." "So you made Sarah look like a criminal. You let me believe my wife was stealing from me." "I was protecting you from the pain of watching me die," Helen sobbed. David felt rage and heartbreak crushing his chest. "You weren't protecting me. You were being selfish. And now I've lost everything because I trusted you instead of the woman I married." Can David fix what he's broken? 1 chapter left. David tried calling Sarah for days. She never answered. He drove to her sister's house, but Sarah refused to see him. Finally, he wrote a letter. "I'm sorry. I should have trusted you. Please come home." 2 months later, Sarah agreed to meet him at a coffee shop. She looked tired but beautiful. "I'm so sorry," David said immediately. "I was wrong about everything." "You chose your mother over me without even listening," Sarah said quietly. "I know. I failed you completely." "Your mother is doing treatment now," Sarah told him. "I'm still helping pay for it, even after everything." "Why?" David asked, amazed. "Because she's your mother. And because love means doing the right thing even when people hurt you." David reached for Sarah's hand. She didn't pull away. "Can you ever forgive me?" Sarah was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know. Trust isn't something you can just fix with an apology. I'll spend the rest of my life proving you can trust me again," David promised. Sarah gave him a small, sad smile. Maybe we can start with coffee, just coffee, and we'll see. It wasn't a happy ending yet, but it was a beginning. The lesson? Always listen to both sides before making life-changing decisions. Trust must be earned, not assumed.